Okay, so under this halyard is my main halyard winch, and this is the terrible bracket that it sits on. You may not be able to see from that angle, but you may have seen from my previous videos. Will I put a link up? Who knows if I can work out how to. That this is starting to fail, it started to crack. You can see here where I've actually welded it, but when you weld aluminium, you take a lot of the strength out of it. And so it really is knackered. Dan actually chucked a wooden chock behind it to try and stop it collapsing in, which did actually help a fair bit. But what happens is when we put this under heavy load, like if someone's going up the mast or we're trying to put a lot of luff tension on, the winch pulls itself down in the direction of the halyard, and the pad, well, this plate actually deforms. And then what happens is, because the alignment isn't right, the line starts to overwrap. We get all sorts of problems with it. So, okay, so my plan to sort the main halyard winch pad is to replace it with the Selden option, which is a proper pad as opposed to a kind of fabricated piece of aluminium. Okay, so this is just turned up from SVB. I'll chop it open. We have to take a look, see if it is just going to bolt straight on. Or whether or not I'm going to have to do some additional faffery. Okay, so the chunky old SVB catalogue probably accounted for half of the shipping costs. And here we go. So there's a couple of these different winch pads you can get. Well, there's a lot of different winch pads. You can get different sizes, but you can get ones meant to fit a winch for a Cunningham, I believe. So it goes kind of in your mast track and sits in line with the mast track. And then you get these type where they're smooth on the back and they're designed to go on the side of the mast for halyard purposes. So this is a lot more solid looking than what I had. And the hope is it won't deform in quite the same way, both when I'm being hoisted up the mast and when we're trying to actually pull on some proper luff tension in our main. Not an awful lot comes with it. I think this is an isolating pad. So to keep the steel off your aluminium mast, the steel with the winch pad. It says use monorail rivets or screws tapped into the winch pad. Yes, this is an insulator pad, and it looks like it comes with some nice monorail rivets, probably 6mm or 6.4, whatever they are. It doesn't say, but I may ask the fabricator who put my pulpit together if I can borrow his electric rivet gun thing, because the last time I tried putting in 6.4 or these chunky monorail rivets with one of the hand tong things, yeah, I smashed myself in the face. It was bloody horrible. So I'm keen on using the rivets, but equally I don't know if I can. I don't know, I should be able to service the winch regardless actually, but I won't be able to remove the winch without taking this off the mast. That shouldn't be a problem unless I want to upgrade it to a self-tailer in the future. I guess if I ever get to that level of decadence, I can just drill out the rivets, pop this off and do it. Now, one thing that is definitely different from what I've got is this mast pad just has a single hole in the middle, and I'm pretty sure my winch connects to the mast through 4 holes. So I obviously can't drill through these ribs. These are the main strength of the winch pad. So I'm probably going to have to take the one that's on the mast off, have a look at what I'm dealing with. Anyway, let's go pull the one off the mast and have a look. Okay, so winch pad is coming off. And we're going to have a look, see behind it. And see how the winch actually mounts to it. and whether or not it can be adapted to work with the new winch pad. Yeah. At the moment, this pad is screwed to the mast. I'm quite careful to use the correct grease to stop galvanic corrosion, which is why these screws are coming out. First time I ever did this, they were really seized in there. It was really hard work. But yeah, since using the grease, they come out much better. Another thing I've always wondered actually and worried about is if somebody went man overboard and I didn't have enough people on the boat or didn't have the strength to haul them out of the water, I'd like to be able to throw a halyard to them and try and winch them on a halyard. And I guess you could use a spinnaker crane, but I guess the main halyard in theory is stronger because it's running through the mast, through a sheave in the top of the mast rather than on a crane, so less likely to fail. Yeah, as suspected, it's 4 bolts. Okay, so this is a new one. Ah, looks fantastic actually. Like, and when I say it looks fantastic, I mean it meets the mast quite cleanly. And seems to be a lot of play there. So yeah, that should go in quite nicely. So I'm just going to have to play around with that, get it at the best angle. Probably when the winch is, well, definitely when the winch is on it actually, because if I don't put the winch on it, am I on camera? Probably not. If I don't put the winch on it and then I put it on the mast, I won't be getting the winch on it. So yeah, winch on first, and then maybe play around with the halyard alignment so it's coming straight out of the sheave. So maybe it needs to be slightly offset to one side. And then yeah, mark it up, drill it, rivet it. Nice. Okay, here we go. We're on my kind of temporary new workbench in my tent that represents my workshop at home after the old workshop blew down, for those of you that have seen that episode. Here is our main halyard winch, and here is the aluminium bracket that it was mounted on. You can see it's not in a fantastic way. I mean, I have no idea what shape these originally were to start with. Perhaps they were flat here, but you can see this is, yeah, really distorted and isn't really fit for purpose anymore. I've got this little anti-corrosion pad that was under the winch. And here we have the new pad. At the moment, it's got a single hole. Our winch has got 4 bolt holes on the bottom in that pattern. I'm not sure what those dimensions are. It shouldn't matter too much because what I'm going to do is open the winch up, place it on top of here, try and center it as best I can, mark where I need to drill for the new bolt holes. On the back there is a webbing, so obviously I don't want to go drilling through that because that's a main strength. So what I'll try and do is put a bolt hole there, bolt hole there, bolt hole there, bolt hole there. Alternatively, I guess I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, but I think it's probably easiest to space them if I do them like that. Yeah, so first step is disassemble the winch. So these winches have this little circlip thing on top, which hopefully won't go firing off when I remove it. Okay, so I've just flicked it up there. Normally I'd stick a rag or something over this. I don't really want it to go flying. Workshop's pretty poorly equipped at the moment, so no rag or anything. I'm just working the screwdriver around it. There we go. Sorry, that wasn't very clear on camera, but effectively you can kind of see how it works. So there's a little cutout there. I put the flathead in there, levered it out, and then basically just works it around. So then we should be able to remove the top from the bottom. Okay, there is the top part of the winch. and it's got 2 sets of these pulls which are spring loaded, and they're basically what acts as your ratchet system. When you're servicing these, you basically clean these out, replace the springs, check the springs are still working, etc. Okay, here's our base. Here's our bolts that were in the bottom of it. And what we're going to do is offer this up to the new winch pad. I'm going to use that hole in the middle to try and center it as best I can. And I'm going to orientate the bolt holes so they're direct up and down, left and right. And I'll just do that now. Okay. I'm going to get my Sharpie and let's give us some markings. Right. And come back off. Alright, what I'm going to do next, get all these out of the way. I should probably think about servicing this this winch actually, but I might do that with gloves on later, see how it's looking. Not that I have a service kit here, but I could clean it up. I'm going to use this punch, give it a quick visual check to see that I'm not going to drill through these, which I'm not. So I have a hammer, I have a punch. I'm not sure whether or not this is necessary, but obviously I'm drilling through metal. I don't really want the drill bit sliding around. It's the first thing I've done on this workbench, so I wonder how well it will deal being hit. Okay, I'm just going to work my way around those different markings I've made. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? I'm going to get my drill and drill bits. Work out what bolts we've got here. Guessing they're probably M6. Maybe I should find a bit of scrap wood to do this on so I don't blast a hole in what I'm drilling on. So this worktop will actually have a steel topper going on it, which I did cut down today, but I haven't got around to bringing it in here yet. Okie dokie. So there we go. 4 holes, which I may or may not deburr in a second. Let's see whether or not they line up. Okay, so there we go. There's the 4 bolts in. Unfortunately, not sure if that's obvious on the camera, but they are not long enough, the bolts that I've got at the moment. So I need to buy some slightly longer bolts, not too much longer, or they'll impact the mast. So yeah, that's the next step. And it looks like they definitely will need to be bolted up before I go and rivet this onto the mast. And given I don't have these tonight, that probably means a trip to the chandlery tomorrow to pick those up. Anyway, that's ready for the next step. Okay, so back down the boat with my winch pad. Now, like most things I do, I've gone and cocked this up. Turns out there was a insulation pad that came with it, and that has some instructions on. One, to act as an insulation pad, but 2, it tells you what you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to tap the actual pad itself, which makes a lot of sense in hindsight. I've now drilled this out to, I think, God, 6 or 6.5. Probably not 6 actually. I think it was 6.5. So I can't tap that without going up to M7, which I don't have. Did I do it 6.5? Yes, I did. Right, so the thing is, I only have the big rivet gun thing today, and I have a race on Thursday, and I can't find my tap and die set because I've only just moved into my new workshop and I haven't seen it for a couple of years. I've got no idea where it is. So what I'm going to do instead is bolt through. Now the issue with doing that obviously is I can't access these two bolts here. So if I bolt them up, then I can no longer remove the winch without drilling out and removing the winch pad. I personally don't see that as being a massive issue, so that's the approach I'm going to go with. So today what I'm going to do is offer up the winch, well, drill some holes in the insulator pad first, and then I'm going to get the bolts that I've just gone and bought, and I'm going to mount it. Then I'm going to offer it up to the mast, mark where I need to drill out the holes for the rivets on the mast, and rivet this up, and hopefully get that done before I run out of daylight. So yeah, let's go. I bought 2 lengths of bolt. Bought 20mm and 25mm. The previous ones measured about 15. They'd been cut down. So I'm just going to see what works really. Unless I go drilling more holes in the mast. That actually looks like it's not going to impact me. I'm going to go offer it up and check. Yes, it does impact by about 2 or 3 mil. So I am going to cut that down. So wind the nut on the end of it so that after I've done my terrible hack job chopping it down, I can get the nut back off and hopefully reform the thread. The other thing worth mentioning is these bolts are hex head rather than flat head, which is much better. Perhaps that bottom one is going to need to be tapped actually, because I'm not sure. I'm going to get a bolt on there. A bolt on there? A nut on there. Let's give it a try. I mean, I might just about, but it's not going to be very good. No, definitely not very good. Right, what to do? New plan, because I can't get that bolt through, is to go with these 3 as bolts, and this bottom one's a rivet. It's not ideal, obviously, because I still can't release the winch without undoing this top one, but it's the best I can do today. Okay, change of heart. Half because I failed to put a rivet in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that half driven in rivet in place. I am going to bolt it up using the other bolt holes because I don't really want to tap this out to M7. And I don't think I'm that fussed about actually tapping the mount. So, but if I change my mind on that, I can always just drill the rivets out, right? So I'm going to continue to mount it using the bolts, using the plan I was going with, ignoring that for the moment, and not going up the mast on it. And just, yeah, get it up, get it going, and then what I'll probably do is drill that out, tap just that hole at a later date, and run a bolt through that, rather than try and tap them all out to M7. I'm fully aware that bottom rivet isn't properly set, so that won't be a permanent feature. If nothing else, I could just get some longer rivets and run it through that and get that properly set. Not really sure how I'm going to handle that yet. Okay, right. Progress going about as well as always. So what I'm looking to do with this is mount it about the same height as the previous one was. Mainly because I still want to make use of that, and it wasn't a bad height. I want to have it so that this is directly vertical to the sheave block at the bottom of the mast. So I want to have this side of the winch directly above that. And yeah, that's pretty much it really. It should already have the angle built in. So yeah, let's see how it goes. So now I'm marking the centre of all the holes that I need to drill. Yeah, cool. I'm going to get my punch, gently tap it with my non-existent hammer, and then drill those holes. That doesn't look very good. Didn't seem to line up at all. Gosh, I'm so spectacularly bad at any DIY. Why? Okay. Right, well, it took a lot more effort than I thought it would, obviously, and I made a number of cock-ups on the way, and the job is sort of half bodged. However, I've done a thing. That's on the mast. Yeah, happy days. Right, now, I have another job, but for that job, I am happy. Let's give it a quick test. Here's where it undoubtedly will overwrap like crazy. Hey, well, I mean, here's the work. Take the main sheet off. Give it a little test crank. I wonder if I could triple. Yeah. Nice. Happy days. Something's worked. Incredible.